Good evening, everybody. Please be seated. Welcome to the meeting of full council this evening. I am the Mayor of Rugby, Councillor Simon Ward, and will be chairing the meeting. This meeting is being web streamed to the public through the council's YouTube channel. During the meeting, if you wish to speak, please use the push to talk button on the microphone in front of you. Before we begin the formal agenda, I will ask the Deputy Chief Executive to provide details of the evacuation procedure for those present.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening all. There is no fire drill scheduled in the building this evening. If the fire alarm does sound, then please make your way out of the building down the main staircase, out of the main doors of the Town Hall, and congregate at the entrance to Caldecott Park. An officer of the council will give instructions on when it is safe to return to the building.
Thank you. Are there any apologies, Deputy Chief Exec?
Mr. Mayor, I've received apologies from Councillors Henderson, Russell and Slinger.
Thank you, that's noted. Next item on the agenda, to approve the minutes of the meeting of Council held the 11th of December 2024. I move that these minutes be approved and adopted. Who will second the motion?
I will, Mr. Mayor.
Those in favour, please show. That's carried. Thank you. Next item is declaration of interest. Can I remind members that when they declare interest, they must also declare the nature of that interest? Are there any declarations under non-pecuniary interests as defined by the Council's Code of Conduct for Councillors? Councillor Lawrence?
Under agenda item number 5, I'm a trustee of the Bilton Paul's Land Charity and also ward councillor for Bilton.
Councillor Timms?
Item 6A3, Climate Change Adaptation Plan for Rugby Brough Council as the portfolio holder for Warwickshire County Council on Environment, Climate and Culture. I'm not sure whether it falls in that range or whether it actually tips over into the other one, but I'll start with this one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? No? Okay, those are noted. And on to pecuniary interests as defined by the Council's Code of Conduct for Councillors. No. Notice under Section 106, Local Government Finance Act 1992, non-payment of community charge or council tax. No. Okay. So on to item 4, which is my mayoral announcements. Firstly, I'd like to start by mentioning about the amazing achievements so far of Rugby Brough women's football team. This Sunday, the 9th of February, they have their FA Cup 5th round tie against Liverpool women at home at Kilsby Lane. I'm looking forward to personally attending the match and showing my support, and I know the whole of rugby is right behind them in wishing them well with a sellout crowd. The game is also going to be live on TV through iPlayer, BBC Red Button and other channels. This will be a great occasion for the team and the community and will no doubt help to raise the profile of the women's game and that of Rugby Brough women. And I've got a quote from Lee Birch, who's the head coach of the team. So he says, "We are all looking forward to the upcoming FA Cup game against Liverpool Women FC, and as a club, we are really pleased with the support shown ahead of the game. Since we have moved to become Rugby Brough, we have been working to build up our support and deliver a women's team the area can be proud of. From winning the Birmingham County Cup to competing in the top end of the league, we are now bringing a WSL side to our sold-out ground at Kilsby Lane. We are excited to have your support for the upcoming games and the future." On to my next announcement. So over the last few weeks, I've had the pleasure of welcoming 2 singer-songwriters from rugby, Emily Burns and Jessie May, plus their families and friends into the Mayor's Parlour on separate occasions. Both Emily and Jessie performed some of their songs acoustically for us, which, to my knowledge, is the first time this has happened in the parlour. So Emily was celebrating the release of her debut album, Die Happy, which came out in November. And she has a whole catalogue of songs, being a signed artist who has supported the likes of James Arthur, Rag and Bone Man, and collaborated with JP Cooper. And Jessie was celebrating the release of her debut single, Easily, which came out just last Monday, the 27th of January. A song which she wrote when she was just 14 years old and is now released at the age of 19. Jessie will also be looking to release further songs throughout the year, so look out for those. And I was just going to add, I can see Jessie's mum and dad up in the gallery there, which is great to see. And this also, as I say, both Emily and Jessie are talented artists who I can't recommend highly enough, and as I say, both from Rugby, which is fantastic. This leads me on to my final announcement this evening, which is my mayoral charity ball on the 29th of March, 7 p.m. until late at the Ben Hall for my mayoral charity, the RJ Foundation. The theme will be to dress up smart and wear something blue, as that was Jamie Reese's favourite colour. Both Emily and Jessie will be performing, as well as other local talented artists, including Thea Watson, Big Family, DJ Rob Facer, and an amazing Killers tribute act, plus an auction with some great items. It promises to be a great evening, with all funds raised going to the RJ Foundation. If anyone is interested in tickets and or sponsorship opportunities, then please email ourjmayoralball@yahoo.com. Thank you very much. On to item 5 on the agenda, so questions pursuant to Standing Order 10. Are there any questions, Deputy Chief Executive?
Mr Mayor, there is one question which has been circulated to all members and published on the Council's website. The question is from Councillor Lawrence and relates to the appointment of Council representatives to Bilton Pause Land Charity.
Thank you. Councillor Lawrence, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, Mr Mayor. I think first of all I need to just clear up something here. I'm an elected representative of Bilton, and that's what makes me a representative of Bilton. It's not because I live there. I happen to live in the ancient parish of Bilton, but it is actually because I'm an elected member.
Can we make a point of order, because it's a question, isn't it? It's a question.
I am going to the question, if you allow me to.
Okay, if you want to go on to the
question. Two questions, right. The context of my questions is what I am giving you, and I think the context is quite important. So, yes, I am a trustee of the charity in question and a resident, the ancient member of the ancient parish of Bilton. The ancient parish of Bilton and this charity goes back to 1661. Now, this is context of history. Please do not interrupt while I get to it.
So I'm being told that it needs to be a question, Councillor Lawrence.
Okay. The question, or two questions, that I'm not allowed to give any context behind, is does the leadership of Rugby Brough Council respect the people of Bilton, the traditions and the charitable organisations that are part of this society and community? And the second question is, will the leadership respect the wishes of Bilton Pause Charity, which has twice gone to the leadership and asked to...
Councillor Lawrence, I'm going to defer to our Chief Officer for Legal and Governance.
Just through you, Mayor, just in terms of a supplementary question, it must be related to the original question from what you've just outlined.
That is, because I've been told here that they are looking at legal avenues. This is the charity we're talking about here.
Councillor Lawrence, you've asked a question.
Yep.
Councillor Mystery has provided a response that sets out in terms of, that is self-explanatory in terms of the legalities around your question. So what you've just outlined to me in terms of my interpretation seems to indicate a separate topic in terms of a separate question, a supplementary question must be related to the original question in hand.
I believe it is so, but I'll go to my second. Maybe that will fit your bill more.
Just to
Okay.
clarify again, Councillor Lawrence, the standing orders only allow one supplementary question, not a further
I apologise for that, but you've just taken my first one away. So if I can take my second. With the leadership, respect the wishes of Bilton Bulls Charity and withdraw its nomination for someone who's not a representative of Bilton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, as I said in my response, the report will be coming back to the council and we'll give you a written reply. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item. So item 6A, to receive the report of Cabinet dated 21st of January 2025. In submitting the report of Cabinet, if members wish to raise questions or to comment, will they please indicate they wish to do so when I call the item? Councillor Claire Edwards, will you move the confirmation and adoption of item 1 of the report titled Air Quality, Annual Summary Report and Air Quality Action Plan?
I will, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Who will second the motion?
I will, Mr. Mayor, and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards, would you like to introduce the report?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This is a report and an action plan for us moving forward from this year up until 2028. I have to, first of all, as always, thank the officers for all their hard work in putting this document together, for their hard work in running monitoring stations throughout Rugby, a task they've done since 2004. It's really important that we monitor our air quality and know where our hotspots are and develop plans with partners to improve air quality across the borough wherever we find it. I'm also particularly grateful for the Climate Emergency Working Group. Alison as chair will speak in a moment, because it's really important that what we do is properly scrutinised by members so we do the best job we can. So I'm really pleased to recommend the content of this report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any speakers? Yeah, Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to first of all thank the officers for the work that they've done on the air quality report. It's much appreciated, and it's an incredibly important area that we need to scrutinise and look at for the health and well-being of our residents. There seems to be more and more evidence coming out every week about the dangers of particulate emissions, particularly the PM 2.5 and the PM 10s, and I think it's so important that this stays on our radar as a really important subject. I wanted to say it's lovely to see that the air quality has been improving in Rugby, but I do think there's more work to be done here. I think in particular we haven't extended any of the clean air zones that cover the town centre out to any of our sustainable urban extensions, and I think that should be a natural extension of what we've been doing. We haven't looked holistically across departments on this particular issue relating. We know that if you plant hedges along roadsides, you can actually trap the particulates and protect home occupiers and pedestrians from those pollutants. We haven't been working with Warwickshire on the pavements to potentially progress that. And again, we haven't actually worked across party on the air quality and looking at extending the zone. So it's a great report, it's encouraging, but I think it would be really nice to take it a step further and a step beyond where we have been to really try and wrangle this issue to the protection of the health of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any? Councillor Moran?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, again, I echo the comments by Councillor Mackenzie. And also everyone who's gone through and read this report, what's really clear is the reason or the major contributor to the relatively poor air quality we have in parts of the town is through highways and through congested roads. So I'd call on this as an opportunity to those in the room who are county councillors to do what they can to galvanise Warwickshire County Council into confirming details and financing and timeframes for some key highway schemes that are much needed in the town. So hopefully I could call on those councillors who have twin hats to just confirm for the benefit of everyone here that they're fighting for the benefit of rugby. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers?
Excuse me, I think we have to declare
Councillor
an interest because we've been mentioned as Warwickshire County Councils in this as well. So can we do that? Have tab? Yes. Thank you.
Okay, shall we go through which county councillors have we got in the room, I suppose, on that note?
Okay.
That's been noted. Yeah. Okay, are there any more speakers? Councillor Gillies.
It might be worth noting, Mr Mayor, that air pollution isn't something that's confined purely to the urban area. We get a lot of traffic flowing through some other villages now, and they suffer from exactly the same problem. So let's keep those on the radar too. Thank you.
Any more speakers? No? Okay, Councillor Claire Edwards, you're right to reply.
Thank you very much for those valid points. We will take them on board. As I say, we are improving. We've been monitoring this for a very long time, and the areas where the worst exceedances are beginning to come down. There is still work to do, but it very much road traffic. I'm hopeful that the Avon Mill roundabout can get the go-ahead, because that will reduce traffic in the town centre and across Newbold Road, and particularly outside Rugby School, which is the worst hotspot across Rugby. I accept that there are other areas, non-urban, that get queuing traffic. Dunchurch outside the Dun Cow has long been an area of concern, and I know that's one of the reasons why there will be a road to take traffic away from them. But of course there are consequences. Whatever you do, there is a consequence. So we need to keep that on board. But I'm hopeful that things will improve. But it is standing traffic at traffic jams with old technology like diesel and petrol cars. That's what we need to get away from as well. But I'm happy to take everything on board. And I'm sure it'll go back to the Climate Change Working Group in due course if there are some issues that our monitoring is flagging up, because then we're following the data. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Claire Edwards, will you move the confirmation and adoption of item 2 of the report, titled Establishment of a Rugby Landlord Forum?
I so move. Thank you.
Who will second the report?
I will second and reserve my right to speak.
That was Councillor Robinson, just got in there first. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Claire Edwards, would you like to introduce the report?
I would very much so. Thank you very much. When I returned to Rugby Borough Council, one of the things that was mentioned to me was the need for a landlord forum. That there had been a notice of motion back in 2022 that didn't really go very far. It's a great privilege in my life to have been appointed as portfolio holder. And one of the key things that was raised throughout my period as portfolio holder is to get the best possible quality of housing in Rugby that we can, whatever its tenure, whatever its style, whether it's rented or owned, or actually our own stock. I think we need to work much more closely with our landlords in Rugby, the wider borough, and I see the Landlord Forum as a mechanism to do that, to work in partnership. So I'm really pleased that we've got a report coming through tonight that tells us exactly how we're going to do that, and I hope everyone will support it so that it can demonstrate that it will make an impact. Our corporate strategy, which we've just agreed, has it very firmly in its sights that we need to work better in partnership. This isn't about telling private landlords to do their job. It's not telling registered providers how to do their job, but it is a forum and a platform that we should support to improve housing for everyone across the borough. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any speakers? Councillor Garcia?
Yes. Say that we did have a task and finish group, and we had about 4 meetings, which was cross-party, and during that time we did come to the conclusion that a landlord forum, although possibly necessary, was very bureaucratic, and our intention was to have the digital communications updated, and firstly to see how that goes, to see whether anybody engages before we committed the council to anything further. So I just wanted to point that out, because it's all very well batting on, but actually what is the point of having these task and finish groups if nobody's taking any notice of them? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others? Councillor Moran?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm obviously keen to make the point that under this administration, task and finish groups will be taken very seriously. It's a regret that I think it was January that it ceased to go forward. It is very important. I'll make the same comments I've made in cabinet airings of this, that the intention behind a landlord forum is very, very important. What we've got to do is take the learnings from where it's worked successfully elsewhere in the country and apply them to Rugby to try and help those residents that are in those situations. So hopefully it's something we can work forward, and I'm confident that Councillor Edwards can take it forward. Thank you.
Are there any more speakers? Councillor Robinson?
Hello, yeah, and I'd like to also just mention, as portfolio holder for growth and investment, that we really need to go into this with our ears open as well. A forum with the landlords is a two-way street, and I think we need to be open to hearing from them what their pain and pressure points are as well. Not to assume that we're going in there to necessarily direct our problems and concerns at them and ask them to solve everything. We need to listen, because there may be issues that we need to take on board and think about how we can make it easier for them to make it easier for their occupants as well. So I just kind of want to say that, yeah, we need to enter this in the spirit of listening, which I'm sure that we will, and the portfolio holder that's responsible. Thank you.
Are there any more speakers? No. Councillor Claire Edwards, you're right to reply.
Thank you very much, and for those comments, Councillor Garcia. You know, I was a chair of scrutiny on this authority for many years. There were a lot of task and finish groups, I can tell you. And most of them finished, because that's what it says on the tin. We didn't quite finish this. But I accept what you're saying, very much so, that this can't be a bureaucratic exercise. It's got to be a proper partnership. And I'm really pleased that Councillor Robinson has actually demonstrated it's got to be a two-way street. And we'll be looking at that to make sure the recommendation asks our Chief Officer to crack on with this, given permission. We will be looking to see that there are some proper performance management going on, so it adds value. If it doesn't add value, then we won't go ahead with it. I mean, that's a personal pledge. There is no point setting up structures that go nowhere. So it's going to have some teeth, and it's going to have to come up with some sensible conclusions and add value. That's what we're all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Livesey, will you move the confirmation and adoption of item 3 of the report titled Climate Change Adaptation Plan for Rugby Borough?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I so move.
Who will second the motion?
I'll second the motion and reserve my right to speak.
Councillor Livesey, would you like to introduce the report?
Yes, so this is the culmination, I would say, of about 2 years' work. So first of all, I'd like to pay tribute and thanks to my predecessor as chair of the Climate Emergency Working Group, Councillor Picker, who kicked this work off. We've continued to develop it. We had the Climate Change World Cafe event back in November. This report, this adaptation plan has now been approved by the Climate Emergency Working Group. We're very keen to take the work forward and to start working with our residents across the borough. we're seeing the impact of climate change already. Sadly, Woolston has been hit by more flooding this winter. That's 2 winters on the trot. And so this is a very real issue for rugby, and we'd like to get cracking on this work.
Thank you. Are there any speakers? Oh, Councillor Sam Edwards.
On behalf of the Liberal Democrat group, just like to say that we're encouraged with the way in which the climate emergency group has progressed over the last couple of years. I want to thank Councillor Picker for all the work he did in the build-up to this adaptation plan and the ongoing work of the Labour group. It's cross-party, it's positive, the work that we're doing, and I hope in the future we can continue to work together to make sure that where there are hotspots in the climate, like in Woolston, we can all pull together to help one another. Thank you.
Councillor Picker.
Everyone's being nice to me. I'm not quite sure what to say. No, I mean, it is a fantastic piece of work. Obviously, it was commissioned by Sustainability West Midlands. They've done a cracking job over the last couple of years in pulling together all the information, looking at both the previous corporate strategy and the current corporate strategy, and how a lot of the work can be done over the coming years. I recall that there was a comment at Cabinet about the length of time that this has taken to come forward, and yes, it has perhaps taken a bit longer than we all hoped it might have when we declared a climate emergency in 2019. Of course, the first piece of work that needed to be done was baselining the council's carbon emissions, and my memory is not entirely what it was, but there was a slight challenge in doing that about 3 months later, and that unfortunately contributed to the delay in bringing this piece of work forward, but it's fantastic to see it here. The one final thanks I want to give is actually to the Deputy Chief Executive, who, when I was chair of the committee, was a fantastic advocate for this piece of work and a great supporter. So, thank you, Dan.
Are there any other speakers? No. Councillor Livesey, you're right to reply.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said, and I'd like to echo the work that Dan Green has done over the years on this. It's not been easy at times, and especially I don't give him an easy time. So anyway, thanks very much.
Okay, I will now submit for confirmation and adoption of the whole report. In moving for confirmation and adoption of the whole report, this can take place en bloc or upon any member request. A vote can be taken separately in respect of each report. Does any member wish for a vote to be taken in respect of each individual report? No?
Mr. Mayor,
sorry.
since I wish to abstain
Councillor
on
Timms.
item 3, then I think it will have to be an individual vote on each report.
Okay, that's a fair point, Councillor Timms. Okay, so we'll do a vote on the first item, which was the Air Quality Annual Summary Report and Air Quality Action Plan. So all those in favour, please show. That motion is carried. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, now move the establishment of a Rugby Landlord Forum. All those in favour? That's carried. And now, because okay, we're just going to do it with abstain. Okay. Okay, so now the Climate Change Adaptation Plan. All those in favour? All those abstaining? Yeah. Noted. Thank you. That motion is carried as well. Okay, so we now move on to item B, to receive the report of Cabinet dated the 3rd of February 2025. In submitting the report of Cabinet, if members wish to raise questions or to comment, will they please indicate they wish to do so when I call the item? Councillor Claire Edwards, will you move the confirmation and adoption of item 1 of the report, titled Draft Housing Revenue, Account Capital and Revenue Budgets 25-26, a medium-term financial plan 2025 to 2029.
I so move. I'll
Who will
second that,
second?
Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Claire Edwards, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you very much. As you can see, I've got a speech. I don't normally write speeches, but I am today. Firstly, I want to record my thanks. Firstly, to officers for their hard work in putting together this report and the underlying work that goes into the process. I know this has been a particularly challenging year for all local authority housing providers, and I'm really grateful for their can-do and positive approach in resolving the challenges and issues that have been evident in the last 12 months. Their leadership moving forward will be crucial to making progress in meeting those challenges. My second thanks go to Councillor Noreen New for her support and hard work over the last 6 months. It's been a real pleasure to work with you, and I think we've made a lot of progress. And finally, to the past and present members in this chamber and outside who've contributed to Rugby Brough Council housing provision and the services we've offered to our tenants, both currently and in the future. For me, as a newly appointed portfolio holder, the last 6 months have been a great learning curve, but it has been and is an absolute honour and a privilege, and I really do mean that sincerely. The recommendations in this report are very clear and straightforward. We currently own 3,445 homes, with 100 new dwellings coming through at Navigation Way at the end of the year. I'm proposing an annual rent rise that is set essentially by central government, but it's fairly modest at 2.7% on all dwellings. We're proposing an annual capital programme of nearly £16 million and retain general reserves at just over 4%. This is a budget for the future, which aims to ensure our tenants are at the heart of all we do. I recognise things haven't been as robust in the past, but I know we've made some great strides to have a housing service that we can and will be proud of. That new legislation I've just referred to means we have to be better and we have to improve, and we're well on the way to doing that. I'm convinced of it. I'm really impressed by our senior housing officers and our leadership who've stepped up to see this as an opportunity to put our tenants at the heart of our services moving forward and to improve on a number of areas. As I say, we are making strides. There's still lots to do, but I'm confident we have the resources and officers to make those vital changes. This budget is designed to protect our services so that we can reinvest in the things that matter most to our tenants. Affordable but good quality and suitable housing. We may provide a variety of housing, but we should never ever forget that every single unit is a family's home, no matter how large or modest. In the last few months, we've undertaken an overhaul of our complaints process and have made significant improvements. For instance, last year at one stage 1 complaints were only responded to within 10 days or less, in less than 34% of cases. That has now improved every quarter and is now over 80%. That is better, but there is still room for improvement. We've established a cross-party working group to focus on complaints, and I'm confident things will improve in the future. This year, we have also undertaken a major review and mock inspection of our services. It's been sobering to read of the areas where we can and should improve, but I'm confident we will, and some improvements are already very much underway. All our policies are being reviewed and overhauled to make them fit for purpose and up to date. We have reattached, I'm not sure that's a technical word, but we've reconnected our repairs service to the main housing service so that all our tenant services are under one structure and system. Relying on manual spreadsheets has to stop, and I'm confident this will improve our responsiveness to repairs and reduce complaints, because that's what we've got to do. Another means of change has been to escalate our stock surveys. In recent years, the target was just 60% with a 20% annual top-up. By escalating this to 100% by the end of March this year, we'll have a much better idea of what homes need repairs and where our future investment should be focused. And we have a capital programme being developed which will come back to Council for your approval once we have a clear idea of what needs doing. I'd like to thank decisions from my predecessors, actually, who've invested in building new council homes, for instance, at Navigation Way, where 100 new council homes are being built and should be ready for our tenants by the end of the year. They have the latest environmental standards, and I'm really pleased we're investing in new homes that are going to be affordable to heat and fit for the future. We look forward to building more, and I leave my colleague to tell you more about the wonderful things we're going to do at Rand's Gardens. So I'm also delighted we're moving towards the new allocations policy. We've held some member workshops already and we'll do more in the future so we can develop our choice-based lettings in the future. So that puts our tenants at the forefront of making decisions about what properties they want to live in and where they are. In due course, we'll be looking closely at our rent setting periods because potentially moving from 48 to 52-week rents for all our tenants will streamline the complexities of rent payment. We're bringing in a tenant portal that is due to be rolled out in Q1, which I'm told is by June, where our tenants actually can tell us what they want and manage their own accounts online. It's got to make more sense to do that, but we have to always be aware of the digital exclusion and make sure that we have services that are responsive to those needs. I've just found out we've been nominated for the Large-Scale Project of the Year at the West Midlands Energy Efficiency Awards for our decarbonisation work of over 100 homes in Longford and Rugby. I'm really proud that our officers have done that and actually are making it happen. So I'd like to thank everyone for your support. I'm very happy to do scrutiny meetings. We work better if we work together and cross-party. And with that, I move the recommendation as printed. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any speakers? No. Would you like... Oh, sorry, Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just waiting to see if the Conservative benches wanted to speak first, but I will go ahead. I wanted to thank my colleagues across the chamber for the work that they've done on this, both Councillor New and Councillor Edwards. This is such an important part of the services that we offer as a borough, and I think actually it's quite a privilege that we still have a housing stock. I know that not every borough is in the same position that we are, and I welcome the new houses that are coming, and I welcome very much the decarbonisation of homes in my ward that's been happening. I think that's a wonderful thing for our residents to be in better quality housing. I will just want to say again to this chamber that I will continue to fight for an expansion of social housing stock for Rugby for our residents through the planning process, through the local plan, and any other levers that we can use to ensure that we are providing the most housing that we possibly can for our residents. As we know, there is such a significant shortage of affordable housing, and you know it's a very difficult situation across all age groups actually to have housing that's suitable for them. Thank you.
Councillor Moran. Sorry, Councillor Moran first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to really respond to thank Councillor Edwards for all the hard work that she's put in. I can see it firsthand and equally from a cross-party perspective. And I want to agree with Councillor Mackenzie that alongside climate change, housing is, I would suggest, is our most important priorities that we can do as a council. I just really wanted to say two things. I think one, touching on, again, the report, the excellently well-prepared report by officers, details the level of reserves that are held in the HRA account. That's fantastic. But that's not our money, that's the money for the residents to make their housing stock better. It really is as simple as that. So I welcome the fact that we've now got surveys into action, we've got processes, we've got systems up to gear. But what we must get on with now is actually spending that money for the good of those residents so that they live in housing of a higher quality, both in existing stock, and we also then go out and we're ambitious and we can build more affordable housing. And so I think that's a really key priority. And then the other thing I'll touch on then, it was alluded to before, I'd like to confirm to the Chamber that I've asked officers to review the Rounds Gardens project. I'm not convinced that such a high density scheme as originally envisaged is appropriate for Rounds Gardens in its current form. And I welcome officers who will be coming back shortly with a review to perhaps consider whether or not a more subtle scheme can be put forward around in New Bilton, allowing us to deploy funds elsewhere for the greater good. So I look forward to reporting on that in due course. Thank you.
Councillor Roothouse.
I'll just let the opening of the tin to the side. Is it Diet Pepsi, Coke or caffeine free? Oh, okay. But we all have a tin now. At least it wasn't a mobile phone, I suppose that's one thing. Just a couple of points. Can I agree with the Leader of the Council that we do now start to need investing in high quality stock going forward as well? And that may not be at Rounds Gardens, it could be in other locations. But sitting alongside that is also the passion around actually the need for specialist housing. So for people with learning disabilities and other particular needs as well as the elderly and those particular parts. So whatever we're going to invest in the future, we'll have to adapt to that. And that's one because of the demographics that are happening within our society and where we live and the place where we're at. So we need to ensure that whatever we build or are going to invest in is going to be tackling those particular problems which are growing and I have no doubt will continue to grow. A couple of other areas. I really felt the pain of the Chief Officer in relation to the mock inspection. And it was a brave thing to do, but it was the right thing to do because it was putting the whole area on a journey and it's bringing it from where it was onto that journey and onto that road with all that new legislation. And I think for any chief officer, or to actually put the hand up and say, yeah, I'm going to do this, actually is a brave thing to do. But I have to say, some of the expressions I saw when I came in the town hall from now and again, and the screams coming from that office were led to belief. But can I say congratulations on that? Because I think, as I say, I know what happened at Warwick District and elsewhere with those inspections, and they are difficult to do, and they're difficult to actually get the staff and everybody up alongside that. But it is the right thing to do. And I would urge all chief officers that if you're going to be thinking about your services in the future, that's the sort of activity that we do need to see as a local authority. The other element is I'm really, really glad that we managed to get the property repair services back into housing, into one single block to deliver one service for the tenants and act as a proper landlord with a property repair service in there together. And I look forward to seeing how that will grow. It will change, I have no doubt, and how that will change. But that is a good thing, and it's a good meshing together. And of course, voids, I can't say anything with that. I have to mention voids every year, every rent setting. We are moving in the right direction. It is a journey. But I also feel the pain from other work I've been doing elsewhere. I understand voids a lot more now. So I understand a lot more about utility companies, I know that. And I know we've done work with a certain utility company, which I absolutely hate now, but there you go. But it's a difficult position to be at. But I think, again, what we're seeing is some progress on that. And actually, we need to progress and find other solutions to do that. And some of the elements I've learned, as I say, doing work elsewhere, has opened my eyes to how we've got members of staff who are chasing up utility companies to actually either shut meters down, change meters or whatever else, and actually, because they rack up the cost each day and all this sort of business. So it's quite a big area of work, and you start to understand why that voids can up and down. But the work started under Councillor Tim Willis when he was portfolio holder, and it's continued. And again, it's likewise, if we can continue that working and that discussion together on member involvement, I think that's, it is the right way to try and do this. And of course, at the end of the day, Mr Mayor, we are the landlords. We own that property. It is our property. And we have a great responsibility with over 3,000 plus properties with those residents and families and children and older people that are there in Rugby Borough Council properties. Not every local authority can say that these days. And I think it's really good that we do that, and we should invest more and build more. But I go back to my original point, perhaps it'll be building something different because it has to build for a different demographic and actually to support those people. Because, you know, it is going to get extremely difficult for some people living in the properties that they're in, and they will need help to keep them in those safe places and secure and have independent lives, which is what they want at the end of the day. As you move towards those last chapters, you need independent lives to support you going forward. We can do that, and it's only right that the local authority should do that, because that's our social responsibility to do that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor O'Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, most of the points have been picked up that I was going to make around the importance of reflecting the needs of the local population, and that's changing greatly, particularly with the growth in the town. And finally, I speak from the point of view as the lead on health and wellbeing and also for health in rugby. Anybody would tell you that knows anything about public health, the two greatest determinants on the sort of well-being of anybody's lives is not smoking and having very high standards of good housing. So I really welcome this report. Thank you.
Are there any more speakers? No. Okay. Councillor Claire Edwards, you're right to reply.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all the comments that have been made. I think there is work to be done, but we know we've got to do it and judge us on results. But I do want to work in partnership. This can't be just our side of the chamber doing the work. We're already working closely with Noreen and her colleagues, and we've really got to crack on because we have a duty here to make the most of it and to have the best housing service that we possibly can. I'm confident that we've got a plan. We will go through some difficult times, but it's all coming together, and we will get there. So thank you. I will stop talking now. I've done enough today. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now submit for confirmation and adoption of the whole report. Those in favour, please show. That's carried. Yeah. Item 7, to receive the reports of officers. The next item is to receive the report of the Deputy Chief Executive set out at item 7A of the agenda. The report concerns the Council's pay policy statement. Councillor O'Rourke, will you move the report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will remove the report. Move the report, not remove it. It's been a long day.
Yeah. Okay, move the report. Who will second the removal
Mr.
of the
Mayor,
report?
I will second the motion. Thank you.
Councillor O'Rourke, would you like to introduce the report?
Yes, I would. It is a sort of statutory requirement that we have a pay policy. It's something that we do on a fairly regular basis. There are two sort of recommendations in here. There has been consultation with the trade unions, I'm glad to see. And really, I suppose for me, this is about fairness, it's about equality, it's about transparency, and it's making sure that there is a sort of band in terms of pay where we won't go below, which is good for me. So I recommend you support this policy. Thank you.
Are there any speakers? No. Would you like a right to reply to yourself? Or, no, that's fine. Yeah. Those in favour, please show. That's carried. Item 8, notices of motion pursuant to Standing Order 11. In accordance with Council standing orders, there are no motions on notice to be considered this evening. Item 9, motion to exclude the public under Section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972. Under Section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following item on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of information defined in paragraphs 2 and 3 of Schedule 12A of the Act. I so move. Who will second the motion?
I will, Mr. Mayor.
Those in favour, please show. The motion is carried. That concludes the public part of the meeting. If we can please stop the live stream. And I'm afraid members of the public will have to